the biggest mistake I've seen is people who get started well. I mean, I would look at least $1 million, probably 2 million rand per employee. Hi, my name is Rick Grantham. I'm with a company called Deal Leaders International. We help people with the sale of their businesses. We call sell-side advisors. We work exclusively for sellers of businesses. And I've got quite a entrepreneurial journey behind me, which has kind of got me to this stage. I started out as a mechanical engineer, probably just because my father was a mechanical engineer. It took me a while to realize it just wasn't my passion at all. I'm definitely not a good engineer. It's nice to have it on my CV, but that's about it. And it took quite a while before I started realizing I needed to do something different. I went and did an MBA, which a lot of people do when they don't know what else to do. And that took me, sort of stayed in a bit of a corporate world. And I suppose in my sort of early 30s, mid 30s, realized, hold on, this isn't going to work for me. I need to find my passion firstly, and also need to just get closer to that entrepreneurial journey. I think what I learned was it was difficult to just leap into what am I passionate about, because I didn't really know. And what I decided to do was just each time I had an opportunity to change, I'd try and change my career towards something that I loved doing more. And I suppose that's what got me here. Spending time in educational television was interesting, but that was my first step out of a corporate world. And it just took advantage of my kind of engineering skills, my production management skills, and my financial skills into a world where that was needed. We were producing a huge number of educational videos for the Ethiopian government, a company called Memar TV. And yes, from there I actually bought my first company, bought into a company called Global Access. So that was very much the start of that entrepreneurial journey. And all of that has stood me in good stead as I built this business, which is about businesses. And now I've got such a nice base of so many different types of businesses, different sectors. And every time I take on a new client, I learn about another sector and another industry. So it's been very valuable to have that background. I'm certainly what I do. I absolutely love what I do now, but it's been a proper entrepreneurial journey to get here. This whole idea of growth and scaling, tricky one to say, how do you get there, and what does it take to scale a business? I think the reality is you've got to drive for growth, and I think people kind of miss this. They think people often try to scale before they grow. You've got to grow first and then scale on the back of that. But at the same time, don't be scared of scaling, because otherwise you're not going to grow. So there's a real balance in this, in kind of how those two play together. I think some of the tricks I would say are important is, one, think about marketing. There's so many businesses that say, wow, we got you and we don't market at all, we never advertise. Well, is that good or bad? So really think about how you're going to market a business to a level where it's going to be much bigger than you can handle today. So don't be scared to market. Don't be scared to get your message out there, because scaling will drive on the back of that. I think just another couple of things. Build a proper base, a systems base for your business. It's quite easy to build businesses on spreadsheets. But suddenly you realize, well, I can't do much because I'm actually limited by the amount of information I can manage. Put in a proper CRM. Put in a proper lead management system so that you know where you are and how you're going to chase down more clients, how you're going to find more clients. I think maybe another trick to the process is this idea of don't do it all on your own. Make sure you've got good people around you, not only in the business, but probably the most valuable place to have a good people is external to the business, a non-executive director. Use a board from as early as possible. Start creating a proper board structure for your business so that you're driving it from the outside looking in and not trying to do it all kind of in your own head. I think a lot of entrepreneurs get caught out by that because they think it's all on their shoulders, so they leave it on their shoulders. Go bigger than that. Think bigger, and the scaling will follow, provided you've got good systems in place. So build those systems from the beginning so that you can scale off the back of that. I think people who try to build businesses without proper systems, they just never get them really out of the starting blocks. Yeah, it's interesting seeing the kind of mistakes that entrepreneurs make or business owners make. I think the biggest mistake I've seen is people who get started well. I mean, how people get started is another story. I mean, getting started is often a bit of luck, getting some big contract you didn't plan to, but they get through that, and then it starts making them enough money to kind of look after their lifestyle. And then they just put the brakes on. And actually, as a result of that, they never get it beyond the point where it just looks after their lifestyle. It becomes a lifestyle business. And that's a real trap for an entrepreneur, because at that point, where probably at the beginning they didn't really need the money. They could have reinvested it. But suddenly when they need the business to be bigger, they need the money too, so they're not in a position to reinvest it. Kids come along, school fees come along, all the other kind of entrapments of life. And now they haven't actually built a business that is strong enough to handle that. So in the early days, I think a lot of entrepreneurs are thinking about lifestyle instead of thinking about growth. And you need the growth. Make the business bigger than what you need. And then worry about, kind of where you're taking it from there. Don't make it just big enough for what you need, because it'll become a bit of a trap. Yeah, we spend a lot of time looking at kind of value of businesses. And certainly, a critical part of the value of business is profit, obviously. But it isn't everything. And I think that, again, people forget that the real issues are around, firstly, growth. Growth is probably more important than profit. And then the other thing is around who's the right buyer for this business and what do they need from the business? Remember that the trick to value in a business is not a valuation. That's a financial, it's a financial process. It's really around synergy and who can do better with your business than you can. So that, when you're trying to work out how am I building growth and building value in my business, profit's important, growth's important, but then what's the exit plan? In whose hands is your business going to be even more valuable than your own? So finding those synergies that a buyer in the market can take advantage of is absolutely critical. And that's really what we do at Deal Leaders is our kind of fundamental statement is the value of a business is driven by who the buyer is, not just any buyer. And once you start thinking that way, you start looking very differently at the buyers out there and in whose hands is your business worth more than your own hands. In a kind of small to medium business, often shareholders start thinking, okay, what's my exit plan? How do I get out of here? What do I need to do to exit at, perhaps it's an age-driven thing, perhaps it's a boredom issue, perhaps it's an immigration issue. But what are those strategic changes I need to make? I think the very first thing, and this goes against some of the other comments I might have made, but profits sell. So don't forget to make profits. It's very easy to say, well, I want to reduce my tax, so let me just, I don't know, pay people who don't exist, pay family members for jobs that they don't do. It's going to become a real trap for you. Get used to paying the tax. Get used to structuring the business right and running it very cleanly. It's not essential. One can always manage those kind of add backs and things. But it just changes your whole psychology around your business if you start running it, the more cleanly you're able to run it. So major temptation for an entrepreneur is, I don't want to pay tax. Just think maybe a little bit differently about that and think about rather how to spend the money to not pay tax. And how do you spend that money wisely so that it delivers growth? And it's interesting how when people are trying to reduce tax, they look for ways to kind of take money out of the business so that it doesn't get taxed. Probably the best way to reduce your tax is to spend more money on marketing your business. So if you spend money on marketing your business, not only do you reduce your tax because it's an expense, but you get growth as a result of it. So that there's kind of mindset shifts for an entrepreneur to say, well, I want to exit one day. Let me spend my money, but let me spend my money on growth rather than just trying to get my money out of the business. I think that's very fundamental. I think the other big shift is this idea of working on your business, not in it. A lot of coaches talk about that, but a lot of people struggle to actually do it. But how do you get yourself out of the business a bit? Firstly, run your business through a board rather than running it just through yourself as sort of MD or executive in the business. So get a bit of a board structure in place. Focus on your bottom line, focus on growth. And I think through particularly the board structure, you'll start seeing your business from the outside and start making your business less dependent on you as a worker in your business and more dependent on the direction that you can give the business from the outside. Yeah, it's quite interesting when we look at businesses, and I speak to business owners, probably 5 to 10 a week, to new business owners or different business owners. And there's a very different psychology between running a business doing, 10 or 20 million rand of turnover versus a business doing 100 or 200 million rand of turnover. And I suppose the question is, how do you get from one to the other, and what needs to shift in your thinking? I think the most important thing is around at that when you're small, 10, 20 million of turnover is small. How do you spend the money in the business to make it grow? And I think that's the key thing. You can get a reasonable amount of money out of a small business for yourself, but try to think about how you're going to use that money to grow the business rather than extracting all the money that you can. When you get to that more like the 100 million mark, now structure becomes really important around firstly having solid systems, which hopefully you started setting the foundation for when the business was small, but now your systems become really critical because you've got IP in your business and that often sits in your systems. You don't want all the IP sitting in people's heads. You want IP sitting in your systems so that a new owner can come and access that IP without having to worry about who might resign or leave the business or have something else happen to them. So build proper systems as you start growing, and then absolutely start using a board of directors rather than just running it yourself. Start thinking about the replacement of yourself as a manager so that you can be more of a director. I think that's fundamental as you start getting past the 100 million mark or 200 million mark. And then what's your bottom line? We come across businesses that are doing 5 or 10% sort of net profit as a percentage of turnover. You should be higher than that. You should be looking at 10, 15, maybe even 20% of your turnover flowing through into pre-tax profit. So get your margins right. Margins, without any doubt, are a big part of what sell businesses and make businesses valuable. And if your margins are under that 10% mark, your net margin, you've probably got something wrong and you need to fix that. You need to change that ratio. Another interesting number that I've found over time is, when I find a business which basically has a turnover of less than 1 million rand per employee, I'm immediately concerned about that business. I'm immediately concerned that they haven't got the scale, they're not managing their margins properly, and something's going wrong with the ratios. So you should work out those kind of ratios for your sector and try to get them right. So I would look at least 1 million, probably 2 million rand per employee. Wow, now I can look at that business. I know that there's some good scale in that business already. So there are all sorts of those kind of metrics. Look around your industry, talk to people in your industry, and try to get a sense as to what should you be chasing in terms of margins. Yeah, it's interesting how this concept of mergers and acquisitions is often thought to be left to the big guys. And me as a smaller business, no, it's not my game. I'm just growing this business organically. So mergers and acquisitions is mostly about buying and selling businesses. The fact they put mergers in there, I actually think mergers are a terrible idea. A merger basically being taking two similar sized businesses and putting them together and kind of sharing out the shares at the top. It's difficult. It's very difficult to do mergers. Acquisitions are a lot easier. One party in control. You know where you're going with it. I think that what a lot of entrepreneurs forget is it's not that difficult to buy a business. And often acquisitions are a much easier way to growth than simply trying to grow organically. So looking around for acquisitions and practicing. You don't have to buy every business you look at. Look at businesses. Look at businesses through the lens of, in my hands, is that business more valuable to me than to the seller? And if you can get that right, an acquisition is exactly where you should be going, rather than just pumping away at normal kind of organic growth. And the key thing you're looking for is, what is the value of their customer base? And can you sell your products to their customer base? Is their product valuable to your customer base? I mean, those kind of synergies are exceptionally powerful. And particularly if you can add more value to that business than the current owner can, then you can probably buy it on their value and you can grow it to your value. And you create a huge amount of value for your business through that kind of acquisitive strategy. Building a business is challenging. Exiting is definitely tough. Make sure you get some good advice in the process and recognize that it's just full of pitfalls and challenges. And what's quite interesting watching the kind of the cycle of a sale, particularly in the mind of the owner, is that emotional roller coaster that they're going on. Because it starts out being kind of, I just want to get out of here. Am I going to make enough money out of it? So it starts out almost as a kind of quite a self-centered exercise. And then the emotions come later, partly worrying about the employees, your legacy, what does that mean? And later the emotions of dealing with lawyers and the kind of legalities of the process, which often tries to take all the emotion out of it, and all it does is build all the emotion into it. I think that the key things about managing the exit process from a legacy perspective is that the very best deals are done where you exit into growth rather than exit to someone who's just a pure financial acquirer who might want to actually cut overheads, trim the business down, sell off assets, those kind of things. So the real trick to feeling good about a sale is selling it into growth. So in whose hands is my business worth more than mine? That's probably where you're going to get the best price anyway. And this is what people don't understand is if you find the right buyer and in their hands your business is worth more than in your own hands, chances are they're going to pay you more than someone else would have paid you for that business. So you should, in the ideal world, you get the double whammy of one, selling for a great price, and two, selling into growth, which looks after your employees, looks after your legacy, and takes your business to another level where you couldn't have taken it on your own. Yeah, if I was giving advice to my 20-year-old self, it would be mostly around finding your passion and finding the stuff that you love, because there's no doubt working with stuff that you love is going to make it just so much easier. It's definitely something I didn't get right in my early days. The other thing is around moving. Every opportunity you get to move to something that you love more. So you often don't find your passion that quickly. And of course, you need some kind of a base for kind of skills and experience, maybe a bit of corporate time or something like that. But don't focus there. When you're younger, that's when you need to be taking risks. You know, if you leave it too late, I left it pretty late. I started taking all my risks kind of almost beyond 40. That's a tough time to be taking big risks in a business. The sooner you can start that journey, make some mistakes, figure out what you like and what you're good at, and how you're going to make that into a career, entrepreneurial career, and the sooner the better. So I think in those, particularly in your 20s, it's the balance between gaining good experience, figuring out an industry to be in, but at the same time working on where's my passion and how do I start taking the risks that are going to deliver a great business for me further down the line. That's your 20s. I think your 30s, you've got to start moving on that. You know, now you start implementing. 30s are when you want to start kind of delivering real growth in something, so that your 40s, 50s, when the school fees start coming along, you've actually got some money in the bank. It's definitely the advice I would give my own son. I think that the other thing that I think is important for a parent is how to help a son or daughter through that journey as well. Because I think it's a hell of a tough journey. I think careers get more difficult, through time. I think industries change. There's a lot of movement, and how do you support a son or daughter through that entrepreneurial journey? I think that's the only difference when you're talking about your own child versus someone else or a 20-year-old. Is now what is my role in helping them get through that journey, and what support do they need to get through it? In whatever we do, we've got a business life and we've got a personal life, and certainly in my case, I've had a couple of knocks on the way, either just sort of family related or actually business related knocks that hit you personally, and they hit you really hard. And it's really important for me to look back and say, what have I learned from that, and how do I get through those tough knocks? I think the answer is probably similar for both of them, and that comes down to the partnerships you have in your business. Are you choosing to be an entrepreneur on your own, a solo player, in which case you've got to have a great management team that is going to help you in those times where you just got to step out. And there are times, those times hit us, unfortunately, probably more often than we planned for. But there are going to be times when you just got to step out and say, I'm not there, I'm not around. If you're a solo entrepreneur, which I've never been, I've always had partners, you've just got to have that strong management team who can handle those kind of times. And I think plan for them, because they are going to come, and you don't want a business that needs you so badly that you literally have to be there every day. That whole idea of working on your business, not in it. If you take more of my route, where partnerships just seem to be how I've done things, wow, the quality of those partners is absolutely critical. And I've made mistakes on that front. I've had disasters on the partner front. Fortunately, now I'm in a world, in a business where I've got absolute trust between the partners in the business. And it makes a massive difference, because we understand each other. We're not buddies. We don't don't play golf together, but we understand each other in our own personal situations well enough that if there's a drama for any one of us, we're there to support, we're there to back up and help that. But so partners, I think partners are great. I think they add a lot of stability to a business. I think non-executive directors or non-exec shareholders are also very valuable in a business. But wow, look after those partnerships and make sure you're in business with the right people and people you really can trust. You might want to test it, be sure, because partnerships that go wrong cost a huge amount of money, they cost a massive amount of time, and they actually just take a whole chunk out of your life if you don't get that right.